On today's episode of the SPMA Council podcast, it is a very different twist than previous episodes that we've had. We are doing our first year roundtable with three of SPMA Council's first year reps, Chantal, Alex, and Ruby. We had an awesome conversation with some great stories. One could say that some of the stories had a small town vibe. More on that in the episode. But we basically talked about their mindset getting into the SPMA program, why they chose Brock as a university, and why they chose the SPMA program to go into for the next 4 years. Some standout moments from their first year experience as we head into December, adjustments that they've had to make, which personally I related to a lot, and things through that they've had that have helped alleviate the stress of first year of first year with coursework and all that stressful stuff. It's a great episode. It was an awesome conversation. I invite you to tune in to see what university's life is like from the perspective of these first years, and their takes on the content that we had today. That gave way for some awesome discussion. So we hope you enjoy. Sit back, relax. Thanks as always for listening. Feel free to follow us on our social media channels, Instagram and TikTok, and subscribe to our audio and video feeds to tune into our podcast content. And with that shameless plug, I will stop talking. Let's get into the episode, the first year roundtable with Chantal Brioux, Alex Penz, and Ruby Neumann. This is the SPMA Council podcast. How's it going, everyone? Hope everyone's having a fantastic day. You know what time it is. I invite you to pull up a chair, sit back, and relax, and welcome you to yet another episode of the SPMA Council podcast. This week we are kicking it old school, one take. Everyone knows the rules, and this is because we've got an exciting twist for this week's episode. It's our annual first year roundtable where we interview a collection of our first year representatives here on SPMA Council, a chance to shoot their breeze, gain insight as to what the year's been like for them at Brock, and overall it's just going to be a fun conversation today that I hope everyone will enjoy. Before we get into it, though, quick social media plug. If you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Instagram at SPMA Council Podcast, TikTok at SPMA Council Podcast, and our audio and video platforms where we can be found on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, wherever you get your podcasts. We're there. Follow those streams to make sure that you're updated on the latest content, and follow social media channels for episode previews and some fun content as well. Let's get into the main event by introducing today's roundtable. Let's start off. I'll start off by just picking someone random. Let's go with Chantal first.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for having us. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Chantal. I'm one of the first year reps for SPMA Council. I'm from Oakville, Ontario, which is about 30 minutes away from Toronto. And a little fun fact about me is that I've been a competitive dancer for 16 years.
Jeez.
I know. A lot of time there.
God, like that, like I'm like I honestly, like, competitive dancing for me, I'm nowhere familiar. I was nowhere familiar with until my sister started doing it started doing it in this year. And the routines that are done, I'm surprised I'm surprised that no one's torn an Achilles yet. It's unbelievable the set of moves that are done on the dance floor. So fair play for going with that for that long, 16 years. Geez.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of injuries, few
Oh
Achilles
God.
things, sprained ankles, concussions, the
Oh
works.
God. Oh my God. I don't envy that at all. All right, next up, let's go to Ruby.
Okay, so thank you for having us. My name is Ruby and I'm one of the first year reps for SPMA Council. I'm from Fenland Falls, which is like a super small town, like an hour and a bit from Peterborough. It's in cottage country.
Nice.
And then a fun fact about me is I was a Team Ontario gymnast and just switched sports. So now I'm on the varsity track team at Brock.
Where you what track events you running?
I'm doing 60-meter sprint and 60-meter hurdles.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I had one sort of ill-fated attempt in the track. Did the 400, did the 1 meter sprint, and got absolutely destroyed. Because I'm looking, because I remember clearly. I'm at the start line, and I see these the people beside me, and they looked like they were part of a track club, and as soon as the gun went off, they were gone. I think the gap between them and third place was a good 5 seconds, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, well, the race is over. The race is over. Let's see how much ground you can make up after that. So good for you, and hoping that the season goes well, and hopefully it goes safely without any of this COVID crap. That's fingers crossed you do not go through. Last but certainly not least, Alex.
Hey again, thanks for having us. My name's Alex. I'm one of the first year reps, and I am from Milton, Ontario, which is kind of like a stone's throw from Oakville. I'm sure I don't know what school Chantal went to, but I probably played them in football quite a bit. So like I said, I'm a football player. Unfortunately, I'm not a varsity athlete since we don't have a team here at Brock, and I'm only 5'11", which kind of doesn't work well with the football program. But yeah, it's right now I'm coaching instead, so I'm on the other side of the ball now.
What position did you play, and what area are you coaching?
So I played center, which
oh my God.
I was very small for a center. I was pretty good, but when you go to university, everyone's 6'5" and 330 pounds. Not much I can do there. I currently coached our season just ended for the Sir Winston Churchill Bulldogs in St. Catharines. And then next summer, I'm probably going to be coaching for the Oakville Titans.
Nice. Any specific area like on the offensive line coach, defensive backs, or?
Yeah. So for the Sir Winston Churchill Bulldogs, I coached offensive line, defensive line, and I was the assistant offensive coach. And for Oakville, I'm not sure what my position is yet, but I'm hoping a little more involved with the offense.
From the football games I've watched, if an offensive lineman is going straight at you or a defensive lineman, the first instinct should be run, because if you've seen the highlights, you're either like a defensive back or a smaller fullback, there's a good chance that you're going to get flattened. So like playing center, fair play. That's such a taxing position, especially considering you've got defensive linemen rushing at you almost every single every single play. So, all right. Now the introductions are done. Let's get on to the main part of the show. I guess feel free, whoever wants to start off, go for it. But what mindset have you adopted to set yourself up for a successful tenure in the SPMA program?
Do you want to go in the same order, guys? Or
Yeah, it sounds good to me. I guess I'll jump in first then. I definitely think something that I've kind of appreciated about sport management so far is the fact that a lot of our professors have kind of been reinforcing this idea of networking and collaborating. So I've definitely adopted this mindset of trying to get involved in a lot of different activities at school and talk to as many people in the program as possible. Definitely as we continue along in the program, doing group work and being interactive with other members within the sport industry is going to be really prevalent. And that's something I've learned about our program and kind of tried to adopt the best I could.
100%. It's a great mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's similar. So like making the connections within the industry. So lots of the profs and even just like people within the SPMA Council and like other alumni that I've talked to, it's about making connections. So like once you find somebody or like are into an industry that you enjoy, making the connections so that you can branch further into that is crucial. And then also just being flexible, like coming in, obviously everybody has a sport that they're favorite to, like hockey, basketball, everything, but you have to like be able to adapt and be flexible to go into other sports and kind of gain understanding of different industries and the sectors within the sport.
100%.
yeah, and one thing for me, anyways, that I was told very early on in the program is this program is what you make of it, and they like kind of the other two people said, networking is a big thing, and what they teach us how to network, but then we have to take that from that and then continue it ourselves. So whether academically, professionally, or really any way with this program, it is what you make of it, and that's kind of the mindset that I took into it, is to try and make the most I can out of what's given.
All those are great mindsets, but I think from my time, I mean, networking's the buzzword, but the real impact within that is impressions. It's like, oh, reach out. Well, yes, that may be true, but what happens when you reach out? What impression are you going to leave there? And if it's a negative one, then the concept of networking is really going to be moot for that interaction. So ensuring you're making that good first impression, however you want to approach it, really can separate you from just networking for the sake of networking for the sake of networking, to making like a genuine interaction that can be sustained long, that can be sustained long term. And the sooner you realize the impact of that, and how appreciative people are of that simple thing, the better. I guess moving on, you guys, I think you sort of touched on it a bit, but what was the main motivator behind getting into the SPMA program?
Yeah, I think this kind of connects to what Ruby was saying. Like, we all come in with either a goal of an organization we want to work for, or like you want to become a GM, or you want to, work for a particular sport. And that's definitely something that I found with applying to sport management. I knew Brock was the place I wanted to go because the program is renowned and it has so many great connections to other businesses. I came in with the goal of working for some type of basketball organization. I want to work for the MLSE, but there are so many different opportunities out there. And while that was my motivating factor for getting in and getting those internships later on in the program, I'm definitely learning to love and appreciate other sports and kind of get involved in volunteer experiences in other areas as well.
So that's a good one. Probably one of the more defined reasons to getting into SPMA that I've heard in a while. Alex?
Yeah, I think the thing that's amazing about SPMA itself is how specialized it is to what your passion really is. So for most people that go into sports management, what I mean by that is they love a sport. And when you think about it, sports management is really one of the only programs offered by universities where you can specialize in sports. Other than like becoming a varsity athlete to some extent, it's the only program where, from an academic standpoint, you can really focus on not just a sport you love, like was mentioned, but all facets and realms of sports. And I think that's what really drew me towards it. The fact that your whole academic learning is based around sports, and who doesn't love that, right?
100%. Ruby?
Yeah, it was definitely like where I see myself in the future. So I want to be within the sport industry. I don't really have like a complete goal in mind. Like I do want to work for the Olympic Committee at some point, but like also like that was what drove me into it, but is my love for sport. But as well, it was like the female empowerment of it for me, because the program is so male dominated. I wanted to kind of bring in the female empowerment and inspire like younger people coming into the program, just like be the voice. And like Chantal and I are both like obviously getting involved in everything and just like bringing more females into it, and then like just being the role model for younger people like applying into the program.
That's a great thing, you know, and that's something that thankfully we're seeing more often. I can point to an episode last year where where we interviewed the two founders of SHEMA. Sport helps everyone make allies. They were talking about the foundation of their club, why they wanted to do it. Just really cool stuff. That's really cool out of the box thinking that they did to ensure that the female voice, despite the disparity in terms of gender enrollment, is valid and is prominent in this program. I mean, like for like I don't think I've talked about, you know, why I got into the SPMA program. It's weird because I knew I wanted to work in sport in some capacity. As to which organization or role, I had no idea. But I honestly just chose Brock based on environment. I wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of the GTA first and foremost. But you know, when I came into St. Catharines, like I was looking at the area and I'm like, I can see myself living here for 4 years. It's right in the escarpment. Everything within the city is generally accessible within a bus trip. And it's just overall a pleasant place, a pleasant place to live. And it's a mix of, you know, a big city, but with that small town charm. And you know, within my almost 4 years here, Jesus, it honestly has been a journey of finding a niche, or a couple niches that I think I can succeed in and do well in. You know, when you branch out beyond the first year courses that serve as a solid knowledge base for what you're gonna encounter in the program, that's when that process is gonna start. So maybe your niche is in marketing, sponsorship, corporate partnerships, nonprofits, HR, it's et cetera. You're gonna go on that journey, and if you commit to it through classwork and other opportunities, it's gonna be it's interesting to see, to look back and see how it's played out if you take advantage of it. I guess going into more specifically the first year experience for you guys, what has been some standout moments throughout your first few months at Brock as we head closer into December?
Yeah, I mean, even just in general, the idea of being able to have an opportunity to go to university, especially after COVID, during COVID, but with less restrictions, is something that I'm so grateful for, because I spent the past few years fully online with school. So going into a lecture was insane. Like, it was mind blowing just to have that actual in-class experience at a university, taking a course about sports. Like, I never thought I would be able to do that. And the idea of getting to go to a sports game for the school and cheer on our Badgers teams, and finally being able to do that again and meeting new people at the school have been some of the highlights of my first few months here, for sure.
100%.
I guess for me, there's kind of two that stick out really. It's one of the first ones, the first day moving into residence, because like for us, like that was the first day like away from home, really. The first time where we were kind of living, of course, there's still rules and stuff, but really we're living under our own power at this point.
Yeah.
And on not just on like a weekend basis or like a week-long basis, but on a month-long basis. And it's that freedom and realization, like, hey, I'm by myself right now. I'm an adult. Like I got to grow up. And especially after being isolated basically for a year and a half due to COVID, it's kind of like a big step going from online classes inside most of the time to you're living by yourself on campus with a bunch of people that you've never met in your entire life.
Any nerves that first day?
I wouldn't say nerves, more excitement. Like I was ready to move out for a while, to be honest, but
Interesting.
It was definitely more excitement, but it was also like one of those moments. And I'd say another one, which is kind of similar to the lecture one brought up, is I don't know what courses the other first year reps are in, but I'm in the 1P93 course right now, and we had an in-person test, like on pen and paper. And I can't remember the last time I actually wrote a test with a pencil and paper. And that was kind of like another one of those moments where it's like, okay, we're like getting through COVID, where like it's not over, but it's getting towards the end. It was kind of one of those cool moments. And of course, taking a test is never fun, but just the fact being seated down in a chair and writing on a piece of paper to get marked on it is just kind of like back to reality, back to 2 years ago, you know?
Yeah, I think like that's similar as well. Like the fact that we're learning about sports is like kind of crazy. In high school, like obviously we had to take like different courses that we didn't really like that much or like we weren't interested in. So it's nice to be taking courses that like are about sport, and then we have our electives as well. And then another big thing is like the big city feel for me. Like I guess St. Catharines isn't like a huge city, but like my town had 2 stoplights. So like I can see more stoplights from my window than like in our entire town. So it's just like crazy to me. And like we had 1 grocery store. So the fact that there's a Walmart here, like everything has just changed so much.
Oh my God. Have you got a chance to like check out like the exterior of the Meridian Center or be inside the Meridian Center?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like everything to me is just so new. And like I took a bus for the first time the other day, and it was so weird. Like we don't have taxis, buses. I took an Uber too. That was so exciting. Like the app and everything.
Oh
like it's just so everything is new to me.
God.
So it's
yeah, like it's, you know, I mean, the bus itself is probably the biggest transition, but that's probably one of the more interesting things. It's like it's like, oh, we've got more than two grocery stores, and the people from the GTA are like, what?
Yeah.
Like that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
Ruby, that's so funny. Like, I think it's crazy because obviously university is such a great way to meet different people, and like so many people come from different places, and I have friends even like who haven't seen snow before. Some of my international students, like they had no clue, and they're freezing their butts off, and I'm like, it's 12 degrees today. Like, I'm perfectly fine over here. But yeah, the stoplight thing got me, the Uber, because I spend so much time in Toronto, and I'm like, oh, I know the bus is like that. I came here, I'm like, wow, it is really quiet over here. I'm like, where am I going? Like, there's green space. What?
Yeah.
And then you're, oh my
Less
God, funny.
Like, yeah, it's insane.
Oh my God. That's classic. That's classic. That's probably going to be one of the more memorable memorable quips that we've had this year at this year in the podcast, from just adjusting university life, meeting new people. Oh, there's like multiple stoplights and grocery stores there. There's a huge contrast that I wasn't expecting. So hey, it adds the different perspective of the show. So we're and like a varied one at that. So not complaining, but that is awesome. That is awesome. And Ruby, you've touched on it a bit, but leading up to a follow-up question here. What's been the biggest adjustment that you've had to make during first year?
Yeah. Well, obviously my adjustment is just big because it's a city, but also like just the fact that like I can make so many like new connections and everything. So like where I'm from, it's a lot of like retired or like kind of cottagers coming up. So our town is less than 2,000 people like in the winter time, but then in the summer it's like a bunch of people. But again, I don't know any of those people. And like I've been in school with the same people since JK, and like our schools are so tiny. So like just getting to meet new people and kind of like finding my sort of people, because like obviously in my town there's not that many people to choose from. So like my friends are whoever are there, but like getting to meet people and like I don't know, just the entire like vibe of everything has just been like my biggest adjustment, but it's been really good. Like I'm enjoying it so much so far.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way as Ruby too, with the idea that like I'm enjoying being able to like make so many new connections and finding a group of people who really understand and appreciate similar things to myself. Obviously, you can have friends from obviously diverse different backgrounds and programs, but meeting people in sport management and being able to just have full-on conversations about fantasy and talking about different teams and watching games in classes, like you get to meet so many people with amazing connections. I definitely think one thing though for me is that I've always considered myself a very independent person, but university really puts an emphasis on having to kind of take control of, your schoolwork, your scheduling. I work while I'm here as well, so just time management has been a big thing. And kind of making sure that I'm keeping everything on pace with my schoolwork and my work, and having a good social life, like you have to balance all of that for yourself. And it's really the first time that I'm having to do everything on my own. So it's a big adjustment, but I love it and I wouldn't regret any of it.
Yeah, sorry, I just find that so funny that what you said, Ruby, because I used to get made fun of like all the time coming from Milton, as it was like a small town considered to other ones in the GTA. So I would have friends from Oakville and Burlington who'd be making fun of me for being from farm town. So anyways, past that, I guess the biggest adjustment for me so far has just been the like kind of like Chantal said, the time management and the kind of the independence of everything. It's very less structured in the way that you have to do things here in university, and it's much more dependent on on you taking responsibility for yourself and making sure you're staying on top of not just courses, but everything that you're involved with, whether it's work, volunteering, and just kind of figuring out your own schedule and staying on top of that.
Yeah, that like all those are like everything that you said. I mean, I went through like, you know, time management's a big thing. I mean, the first thing I did was grab that big calendar from the campus store, and you know, like what like I need like for the life of me, I cannot work with phone reminders. So everything has to be pen and paper or written down on a whiteboard or something or something or other. So just figuring out those tendencies, figuring out timelines, figuring out how to allocate your time with courses with multiple courses, because you know, you look at your schedule and it's like, oh, it's only 5 courses, but you know, you go into the term and you look at the workload and it really adds up. And you know, there can also be times where you can look where you know, you look at the assignments like, oh, it's due in like 4 weeks, I'll be fine, and then 2 weeks passes and you're crammed. So again, it's all about figuring out tendencies that help that work with you. And you know, it's also about figuring about things that can be used to manage the stress of being in university. And I guess the final question for all three of you is, you know, has there been like something that you've had, whether it's like people or an event that for the first few months that has helped you manage the various stresses that university brings?
The biggest thing for me has been going to the gym. Like, Brock just renovated their gym, I think, and this is the first year where it's open and it's fully like renovated and expanded. And aside from it being like gorgeous and so super modern and really fun to be in, like the idea of having a routine where every morning I wake up, I go to the gym and then start my work is such a good constant for me to have. Because aside from it obviously being really good for, you know, your physical and your mental health, it just keeps me on track for my schoolwork. I find I'm so much more productive when I go to the gym in the morning because I wake up way earlier than I ever would if I didn't. And that gives me a lot of room to do my work. And I love going to the gym with my friends and just making it part of our kind of social component of school and doing something that's going to better ourselves for the future. So yeah, that's definitely been the biggest thing for me. I've seen Ruby there too, so we cross paths sometimes.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, like obviously the gym, but with track as well, like we have track practice, so that's like in the evenings kind of, so like getting my work done before that, going to track practice, going to dinner, and then being with my friends, like that's kind of my routine. And then days like I don't have track, I'm at the gym, but like I try and keep like the same routine kind of, so like waking up at a similar time every day, and then all of my classes are kind of like late morning into the afternoon. Like I don't have any really early or any night classes. So that's kind of nice for me. So I just do all of my work, go to track, and then go to dinner and hang out with my friends. So that's kind of just been my constant. And then I've had like the same kind of group of friends like in my residence building. So it's nice that we can just kind of like hang out, or even like if we're doing work, like we can go into like the common room or the study room together. And that's just kind of like been a constant throughout like the time that I've been here.
Yeah, I apologize for giving the same answer, but I'd say the gym too. Throughout, as I'm sure the other two people have, we've played a lot of sports throughout our entire lives, and the sports that I have played have been a lot rougher than most sports, which have resulted in a lot of injuries and issues. Whether I've torn my hip multiple times, I've broken a lot of bones. I had surgery on my feet last year, and like the COVID basically gave me that window to get fully healthy. And also Brock was the first time where I had access to a gym 7 days a week. So I have like a huge passion for like, I would say bodybuilding style workouts. Like I love lifting really heavy weights. I don't know why I love it. And kind of like what Chantal said, having that start to your day, or like having that throughout your day to kind of wake you up and get you on track, really helps you stay focused. And it's kind of been a constant for me throughout the year to be able to go to the gym, take an hour away from my studies or whatever I'm doing, and completely focus on something apart from school. And then when I get back to schoolwork, it helps me get even more focus on that work that I'm doing.
All simple things that that really, really, really leverage your experience, really not leverage, but manage your stress levels. I mean, what I try to do for first year was like, introduce myself to as many people as possible, and before I knew it, I found a couple mates that I could rely on, talk to inside of class, outside of class, whatever, and that sort of multiplied from there. Sports games have probably been the biggest one. Although bad going to Badgers games and rooting for my Mississauga Steelheads when they take on the Ice Dogs. Usually those are fairly entertaining, especially when the Steelheads are winning. That it gets quite it's quite the interesting environment at the Meridian Center. Let's just say that. And for me, I mean, like a new thing, and you might discover this when you go through the process of like trying to get your own place. But cooking, it's weird, but I mean, I sort of find a lot of peace within making your own dish for dinner, and taking a couple ingredients, what you have in the fridge, and seeing what you can make out of them is something that sort of gives me a nice calming effect, after a day of studying. It is a bit of work, especially if it's your first year in your own place, but over time, I've found that you'll learn to love it for sure. But as we draw this to a close, and I want to thank all three of you for joining the show to talk about your experiences this year, and bring a unique perspective to the podcast of how first years got into the program, and how they're how they're living their life at Brock as a SPMA student and beyond. But it is tradition here at the podcast to let the guests have the final say. So I will turn to you guys to say anything that's on your mind right now, or anything that you've left out. So whoever wants to start, Alex, Chantal, and Ruby, the floor is yours.
I'll start us off. Once again, thank you so much for having us on. It's such a pleasure, and I'm so grateful to have these other people with me as first year representatives. And I still can't believe that this is a big town to you, Ruby. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And I'm just excited to meet all of these people within the SPMA Council. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity that after the interview, you obviously chose us. So you saw something potential in us and saw good. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, big town vibes. So excited for that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was great kind of chatting with us four, and that probably is the moment of the year, just that this is a big town. So I find it absolutely hilarious, and that was a good moment.
Driving the tractor was good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Big town vibes is big town vibes is officially the theme of this particular episode, and a great way to end it off. That is it for this episode of the SPMA Council podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay classy, and we'll see you guys soon. Cheers, folks.